Isaiah Adams says, aside from Shanahan's inability to adapt, there's zero leadership in this offense. That's why games are over as soon as we fall behind a couple scores. Well, that's an interesting point.
I don't know if I would point to leadership as the reason they fall apart when they disconnect on the scoreboard, but there's no question about it. I mean, the numbers show it. They don't come from behind from any big margin at all.
Darius R. Yeah, that's a fact now. He can't run from that. Darius R. says, going to my first game against LA, how can I see you? Man, I'm working, dude. It's tough to see people on game. I get there 3 hours before and I'm writing a live blog. I go to press conferences. I'm working till like 3 hours after the game. It's a work day. We'll do a meet and greet sometime. It's hard.
Eric is probably the best way to see you right here.
Yeah, pretty much. Eric says every year that Kyle has a decent offense, they've had a revolutionary play in their back pocket. Jet sweeps and end around and wide back. If Kyle feels having 2 wide backs and Debo and CMC is good, do it. You know what's going to save him this year? Jordan Mason. Once they finally get him in the game.
Who's Jordan Mason?
Excuse me. JP? No, I don't even know.
No. Who's that guy? I don't know.
I never heard of him. Antonio says, honestly, I want Kyle Shanahan fired. I'm so tired of the same football for 4 years. I've had enough evidence. Ooh, it feels like Kyle's on the Niner fans' hot seat right now.
There's a lot of people that have turned on Kyle in the last week or two.
Yeah, no one saw this loss coming. This team right now is so hard to watch, says Christian. That's why we're trying to help. Dark Halo says, if we go CB before CMC, D goes back to full power. That cornerback position really was... Having Ward and Mosley was such a game changer for that defense. It took them from good to great for 5 games.
Also, I mean, their D can't play up quite as fast up front without Kinlaw and Armstead and Bosa. I mean, they've lost 3/4 of their defensive front. I mean, they have 2 D lines, but now that depth is being tested.
All right, Tony's getting spicy. Kyle Shanahan for Brian Burns, J.C. Horn, the 2023 second-round pick. Who says no? Hey, they need a coach.
How about if you took out Kyle Shanahan and put Trey Lance's name in there? Would you do it? Knowing everything you know now, I mean,
I don't think they can give up on Trey Lance yet.
Corner,
He's their first-round pick next
rusher.
Year. I don't think they can actually afford.
You're essentially getting 2 1s and a 2.
Then what do you do at quarterback? You don't even have a first-round pick next year. You can't give up on Trey Lance.
I know.
I don't think you can. It
just seems
it's interesting.
Okay, the only thing I'll say about Trey Lance, and this is just my observation, it seems like Trey Lance needs a 10 to 15 game kind of runway to really play, make mistakes, maybe fail. And it just doesn't seem like I can't envision the fan base or the team ever giving him a 15 game runway. But that's just my maybe you can develop
their problem.
Without it.
That's their problem. I mean, it worked out for Philly. They waited a little bit for Jalen Hurts. It worked out for Buffalo. They waited a little bit for Josh Allen. You got to be patient. I mean, Joe Montana wasn't Joe Montana right away.
True.
And the way I look at it too is like with Trey Lance, if Kyle isn't the guy for him, I'm real interested in Ken Dorsey. He's killing it this year. Like Brian Daboll, first of all, he coached under Brian Daboll, who's an excellent coach, and he's taken this offense to another level than what Brian Daboll had it. And he developed Josh Allen. Everyone says Trey Lance could be the next Josh Allen. Well, if you want him to be the next Josh Allen, maybe bring in the guy who developed Josh Allen and Cam Newton. I'm just saying, he's very intriguing, Ken Dorsey.
He is. I'll tell you, I like what I saw as far as development from Arthur Smith on Marcus Mariota. I thought Mariota played almost a flawless game.
He's as efficient as could be. Matthew Sanders says, can't wait for Kyle to figure it all out, tear off a win streak, and turn things around just in time for Jimmy to get us bounced in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, we've seen this 8 times. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to go on a win streak in November because of all of our suggestions, though. The Gold Rush 561 says, didn't Kyle's offense look more creative in the Bears game than any other game so far? Yeah, man, his script in the Bears game was cool. They were actually jet sweeps. Remember? First play of the season was a jet sweep to Brandon Ayuk. What the hell happened to that? Gained 7 yards.
They're having a hard time getting Debo sprung on any of these like end arounds or jet sweeps or orbit motions, or it seems like they're having a hard time getting him at a full run. I mean,
Debo's not having a great year. He's kind of
back as a runner.
He's having a good year, but it's not. Last year was an outlier. He's playing like he played the first 2 years of his career, which was good. But I don't know. Maybe it's got to be Kyle, man. Debo is way too good to have these middling numbers right now, which his numbers are kind of middling. Same with Ayuk. I don't know.
Ayuk, it was great to see Ayuk bust out. He needed to bust out. I talked about that in the pregame show with Lo Neal on Sunday. I'm like, man, this is it. I mean, he's got to bust out. It's his time. He had a great camp, and it just didn't. We hadn't seen it until this last game. I want to see that 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. I want to see him really take off because he can.
Will Victor says, I've always liked Kyle, but the offense has never been better than the defense, which is what Kyle's known for, and I'm not having McDaniel expose his offense. And not having McDaniel expose his offense. The defensive coach is why he still has a job. Yeah, man, he's starting to look like Brian Billick, right? A guy who's, he gets credit for having these defensive coaches, but at the same time, his offense is unacceptably bad, and he's not coaching the defense. So it's like, who would you rather have long term, Marvin Lewis or Brian Billick? Who would you rather have long term, D'Amico Ryans or Kyle Shanahan? It's becoming a question.
I like Kyle, but I need to see a lot more from right now. I mean, the one thing you can say, without a doubt, we can debate a lot of this, but what's not debatable is that the 49er offense is less than the sum of their parts.
No question. And that's the truth. Why?
There's no way around that. I mean, it's like
you can't blame Jimmy for that. You can't blame the quarterback for that. It has to go to the architect, who is Kyle, the common denominator. Ethan says, my 8-year-old brother has a better football sense in Madden than Kyle has had in the last 6 years of coaching. People who play Madden tend to understand how to work the clock. That's all I'm saying. That's one thing that simulation teaches you how to do is situational football and clock awareness. I swear, coaches should play Madden just for that alone. Situational football.
Sports keeps getting younger and younger. Giants just hired a 30-year-old GM. Maybe. Could you imagine an 8-year-old head coach? Yeah.
What happened to Scott Harris? Did they get rid of Scott?
He left. He went to Detroit.
I went to college with Scott Harris. We used to play.
Okay, he's now the GM of the Tigers.
Oh, cool. He got an upgrade?
Yeah, he's the head of baseball ops. He's like Farhan in Detroit.
That dude I had no idea he was that dude. We would just play baseball video games together, and he was, to his credit, very good. Antonio said, no matter what suggestions you try to tell that guy, he ain't going to listen. He's so overrated. Keep putting Kyle under criticism. Someone has to. Yeah, our market is scared to say it about Kyle, and I don't know why. Is it because Mike won that Super Bowl?
Well, yeah, we saw Chip Kelly, who, by the way, might be the hottest coach in college football right now. How about
Always believed in him. Thank you, Chip. I apologize for everything I ever said. Good college coach.
How good is UCLA's offense?
Zach Charbonnet's one hell of a running back. Oh,
my God.
He's so good.
So fast.
He's tough.
Yeah, he's tough.
Ethan says, good coaches don't have these kind of issues in year 6. Oh, man. It's catching up to Kyle, dude. It'd be great for you to beat the Chiefs. If he beats the Chiefs this week, everyone's off his back.
Yeah, it's a huge game, and a bunch of different things can happen, right? If they beat the Chiefs, wow, they're here we go, 49ers to the bowl, right?
Super Bowl contender. Yeah,
if they get destroyed by the Chiefs, like thoroughly outclassed,
that's not
could
good.
Be
maybe Jed might tweet.
Jed
Sorry,
might
fans.
be tweeting. Jed could tweet.
See, Turley, man, you've been at it all day, man. There are no more excuses for Kyle in year 6, injury or whatever it is. He's turning out to be a high-level loser. Oh, man, Kyle, these are your fans. These are what they think of you. Niner by Nature 88 says, if we get blown out, does that hurt the locker room? I mean, it doesn't help. Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around that.
Petition for changing Arthur Smith to Slim Smith. That's a good name. Yeah, I was saying that he needs a better name. Slim. Antonio Espindola says, the only thing I'm getting impatient is with Kyle Shanahan. Wow. What about Kareem Hunt? Will that open up the offense? Yeah. I mean,
we'll open up the switchboard, with all kinds of people calling up, complaining about his domestic violence.
I don't think Jed wants that.
They're not going to touch him just because of that. But I'll tell you, Kareem Hunt has got tremendous heart as a back. And I mean, if you needed a running back and you're looking for a back, he's a hell of a back.
He is very good. Oscar, nice to meet you as well in ATL. Oscar, Steve M says jet sweep to Gray just once, please. No, you're not. They're not allowed to run that play anymore. It's not allowed. Oscar says the Falcons didn't respect the deep game. Talk to a Falcons DB. Wow. Thank you, Oscar. Reporting. Well, I mean, why would you respect the deep game? It's pretty much shown that Kyle doesn't want to go there, and neither does Jimmy, or at least Kyle doesn't.
Well, and you could argue that they don't have the personnel to do it. I mean, they just got Gray. They've never gotten deep with him in a regular season game. They're using Ray as a special teamer.
Yeah, but Debo and Ayuk should be monsters in the intermediate area, 10 to 20 yard range.
Yeah,
monsters.
Yeah,
they should be able to catch it at 15 yards and then get you an extra 10.
Especially Ayuk.
Yeah. Isaiah says if Kyle hired a competent training staff, Dante Johnson would be working at Chili's. Man, give
rough.
Dante Johnson some credit.
Dante Johnson's respected guy in the room.
Smack Jones says, why would BA even want to come back to us? Well, he's under team control for the next 2 years, but I don't know if he likes that. Seth Harvey says, worst part about being a Niners fan is looking at a player's highlights on another team and seeing your coach not use them that way. KC wins on Sunday. I know what you mean, right? Like, wouldn't it be fun to see Brandon Ayuk on Buffalo in Green Bay? Wouldn't that be fun? I'd like that.
I thought he was referring to Jerick McKinnon.
Baby. Chris O says, is Kyle overwhelmed? Lost his entire offensive coaching setup, including Mike McDaniels, lost Trey. Does John Jed need to get him help? Fangio. Well, Fangio's not going to help the offense, but that's a very good question, right? He did lose a lot of his support system. Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it can't be both, right? Mike McDaniel can't be this incredibly brilliant, bright, young, offensive mind who is such a key element of the rushing attack and no loss at all when you lose him, right? Either he's wasn't overrated when he was here, or he's overrated now. But either way, you had him, now you don't have him.
Trey Niner says, why do we think we need trick plays to have a good offense? Some of the best offenses in the league aren't doing trick plays. They have a competent quarterback. Yeah, the Niners offense does seem a little gimmicky once you get past their, toss plays and their stretch plays and their slants and screens and curls. Everything else is like, oh, let's call a deep shot to Charlie Werner. That's gimmicky.
They'll call them shot plays, where they feel like they've got a mismatch or they're trying to fool somebody. But I would like to see a little bit more, a little bit more continuity to their offense. A little bit more, a little bit more decisiveness from the quarterback. I thought the quarterback played pretty well in this game. This game was a lot about Arthur Smith and Marcus Mariota. I thought those guys were the two stars of the game.
It's just hard to say anyone on the offense played well when they had that drive in the fourth quarter. That one drive, it's like, guys, it's the fourth quarter and you're losing by 2 touchdowns. What the fuck are you doing? It's like, how could you do all that game to just totally be oblivious to the situation? I don't know. That was just, it just felt so amateur that it's hard to give the Niners offense a pat on the back after that fourth quarter, that drive, that second half. That's all the way I look at it. But yeah, he did make some nice throws. I want to ask you about
it's like a guy who's like a NASCAR driver who's got an incredible superstar, incredible car on the road, but he's on the freeway driving 35 miles an hour. I mean, that's what that fourth quarter felt like. It's like speed it up. We
shouldn't have to tell you. This is football 101 and you're in year 6. Kyle. Matthew Sanders says support system for Kyle, call the ambulance. Yeah, I know, right? I think he's probably got a lot of people that called him up after every game. They're like, Kyle, you're great. Don't listen to that Grant Cohn guy. He's terrible. Antonio says Kyle Shanahan should take classes from Brian Daboll. That's what I told you last week, Grant. Right player in the right position. Hey, well, you know who did take classes from Brian Daboll? Ken Dorsey. I'm just throwing that out there. Jed, if you're listening, you might want to call him, get to know his agent.
Daboll is a hell of a coach, man. Look what he's done with Daniel Jones.
P says don't need to protect Jimmy if Mason don't need to protect Jimmy if Mason gets ball and is 10 yards down the field with the ball. Gray downfield. Debo on check down. GK and Jennings on slant. Gotcha, FP. Good suggestions. Christian McCaffrey's like a back wide with Debo wide back, says John Tyler GG. Back wide. I like that. Back slot.
Yeah, he'd be on this team, the way Kyle calls plays and as versatile as McCaffrey is, if you didn't have to run him between the tackles and you could spot him, my goodness. I mean, McCaffrey could be the difference between them getting that 6th ring and not. And the other reason is you want him or you want to defend him in the Super Bowl against Buffalo if you're lucky enough to make it there, or do you want to defend him against the Rams? I mean, the Rams have beaten you despite the fact you have a better roster with these great individual talents. Don't allow them to get another great individual talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Niners had Christian McCaffrey and Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle on the same offense, I think they could probably score 3 points in the fourth quarter. I think they could do it.
Maybe even 7.
Maybe even 7. I think they could do it.